Hello and welcome to the journal. Today we are visiting the Western Wall Heritage Center, an underground wall beneath the Western Wall Plaza, not yet open to the public. Filled with outstanding artifacts, forgotten spaces, and ancient structures that offer a deeper connection to Jerusalem's sacred past.
Welcome everybody back to the Western Wall. Last time we were here, we went into the Western Wall tunnels through the Strauss building. We visited the Great Bridge. We've seen the Great Stone. And some of you might notice that right over here, there's this metal square on the floor, which is kind of out of character. Well, you know what? Today we're going to be visiting underneath the plaza. We're conducting digs. And I want to share you with some of the things that we've been finding recently. So please, come, join me. So to understand what we're about to see, we're going to go back in time 150 years. I'm reminding you all, 150 years ago, the people who are in control of the Middle East are the Turks, the Ottoman Empire, but they're in financial crisis. They are about to collapse. The strongest empire in the world back then, as some of you might know, the British Empire. And they know that in geopolitics, there is no such a thing as an empty space, as a void. If someone leaves, someone takes over. They're thinking to themselves, hey, it should be us. We're the strongest. Here's an idea. Let's send spies to the Middle East, cartographers to map the land. That way our soldiers will have the most updated maps when they need to take over. Do they tell the Turks they're sending spies? Of course not. This is the whole point, right? So what's their cover story? What do they tell the Turks when all these British people start appearing in Israel? Their cover story is that they are archaeologists. And they're willing to pay money. Every place they're going to dig, okay? And the Turks think this is a win-win situation. You're going to dig in the ground. You're going to pay us money. Why not? Bring it on. Hundreds of archaeological teams swarm the Middle East. The joke today is that if you want to visit Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Iraq, Iran, all in the same place at the same time, go to the British Museum. Because, they took a lot of stuff. And about 100 years ago, while archaeology is being developed all around the Middle East, in a small town in Jordan called Madaba, the Greek Orthodox Church conducts some renovations and discovers underneath their church a much more ancient church, a Byzantine church. And they excavate this beautiful mosaic depicting the land of Israel, the way it looked like about 1,500 years ago, and maybe even earlier. This map is the size of about 5 meters by 10 meters in feet, I would say about 15 by 30 feet. And if this is a map of Israel, the way it looked like during the Byzantine period, obviously Jerusalem will be included. I want to show you how Jerusalem looks like in this map, the Madaba Map. And you will notice over here, which is the north, we have the famous Nablus Gate, in Arabic pronounced Bab el-Amud, the gate of the pillar. You could see the pillar is depicted in the mosaic. And the most interesting feature over here would be the two streets that are going from north to south. These are called Cardos. And up until about 60 years ago, This entire area wasn't Israel. It was part of Jordan. And only after the 6-Day War, the city and Israel conducts archaeological digs over here in this area. And we found this Cardo. Today, it's a tourist attraction. People could go have their lunch there, buy tchotchkes. But there's another road you could see parallel. And for many years, archaeologists are asking themselves, where is this road? Is this road even real? Is it just the imagination of the artist? Or did he actually depict something that existed in reality? Well, guess what? We have found the road. Here it is, in front of us. And that means that over here, on one side, okay, there are shops. You could see these shops over here. There are many more going to the north and south, which we will need to excavate in the future. The shops on this side over here of the road were dismantled. Archaeologists had removed them in order to dig much deeper. We're going to see that in a moment. Let's walk down on the tiles of the ancient road, and let's understand when they were built, who built them. So please join me. And over here, we are standing on original tiles, not fixed, not renovated. Some of you might remember that visiting Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, you'd be able to see the temple. And you also might remember that this was destroyed in the year 70. 60 years after the temple was destroyed, another rebellion breaks out, the famous Bar Kokhba rebellion. It's not a successful one. Caesar Hadrian built over here in Jerusalem 1900 years ago an idol-worshipping pagan city. He even changes Jerusalem's name, calls it Aelia Capitolina. He changes the name of the land of Israel, Syria Palestina. No surprise to find here part of that city. These are original tiles, as I said. This is the road. Parts of it had to be reconstructed in order for us not to fall in between the cracks. And while the Romans were unbelievable masons and builders and craftsmen, they were horrible archaeologists. They thought naively that by building all of this city, they're erasing everything that existed before them. But they did quite the opposite. They maintained, they preserved. When we peel off this layer, underneath, we find hundreds of years of Second Temple period Jewish culture, and underneath that, hundreds of years of First Temple period Jewish culture. One example is coming up ahead. We're going to look over this railing here to deeper layers, and we're going to see what's left of a First Temple period structure. We know this because after removing all the dirt that covered this structure, we notice just before reaching the structure itself, it's covered by a layer of ash. We took this ash to the lab. We tested it. It dates back to 2,600 years ago, the destruction of the First Temple. And that means everything below the ash should be from that time and earlier, from the First Temple period. We expected to find in this structure artifacts corresponding that time, whether it's clay vessels, jewelry, weapons. So right now, we could take a quick look and see parts of the walls dated back to the First Temple period, right over here. Within these spaces, we found one artifact that blew our minds. It was a seal about this size. Let me very quickly show you a blown up picture of how this seal looks like. Take a look. This is not the original size. It's much smaller. A seal is, well, actually, this is not the seal. This is the gemstone on the ring which pressed onto the seal. And when you send a letter in ancient times, you take your ring with your name, you press it onto a seal. The person who gets the letter knows who sent him the letter because there's a name. If you look closely over here, you see letters. This is Hebrew, which most Israelis can't read because this is First Temple period Hebrew. The shape of the letters is different. The English language from A to Z is called the alphabet. Aleph and Bet are the two first letters in Hebrew. And that is maybe weird to call the English language with the first two letters in Hebrew. Why would you do that? Because the shape of the letter in English come from this Hebrew, First Temple period Hebrew. And the name that you see over here is Le Chagav. Some of you might have noticed that my finger was moving in the opposite direction. Remember, this is the negative. It's part of the gemstone on the ring. Okay, once you print it, you get it in the right direction. And some of you are wondering, who is Chagav? Chagav is a name we find in the Bible. When you open the Book of Ezra, there's a story about families returning to Israel after Cyrus, the Persian king, allows them to come back and rebuild the second temple. One of these families are the sons of Chagav. This head of family, Chagav, dropped his ring here 2,600 years ago. We do not know what happened to him, whether he was killed or sent to the diaspora. We do know from what is told to us in the Bible that his family comes back to rebuild the second temple. Let's now go to the newer digs, the active digs, a place that I hope by the time you get a chance to visit Israel will be open to the public. Right now, as you understand, everything we're seeing is not part of the regular tours. People cannot come in here, but we're trying our best to get it ready as soon as possible. Let's go see it. You could see behind me all the dirt being removed through buckets via this conveyor belt and into the blue crates. Later, these blue crates will be lifted through the openings I've shown you earlier, and all the dirt goes to a sifting location because these crates hold in them artifacts from 500, 1,000, 2,000, and maybe even earlier years ago. We need to sift through everything. Every single bucket. Who knows what we're going to find? So just a few years ago, during COVID, nobody visited the Western Wall. It was a sad scene. The fact that nobody visited the plaza allowed us to peel the floor, expose all the dirt that was filling up this space. Imagine that just a few years ago, this entire space over here was filled with dirt all the way to the ceiling. And once we removed the ceiling, we drilled holes. Into the holes, we poured in cement. And we created these pylons, these columns. Only then did we install a new floor. And after COVID, when things got back to normal, we started removing the dirt, bucket by bucket. And we've been excavating much deeper than the Cardo we saw a moment ago. Preliminary publications have not been released. This is still a mystery. We're waiting for the research to come out. We're seeing a lot of things, but we're not sure exactly what we're seeing just yet. I'd like to show you a picture, though, of how things might look like in 5, 10, maybe 20 years from now. Let me show you this picture. This is not a real image that you're about to see, but more of a vision, an aspiration, a hope, a dream. Take a look. We are standing now right over here outside the picture. The plaza is above our heads. Most of this area has not been dug yet. The farthest wall that we could see from here is at a distance of more than 50 meters from the Western Wall. There is so much more to dig until we get to the wall. We do not pass beyond it, obviously. Hopefully, this entire area will be excavated sooner than later, and we'll be able to visit it. Right over here, we're approaching a structure dated to the early Islamic period. You're going to see that at the bottom, the floor of the structure is similar to a mosaic. It's not the mosaic itself, it's the foundation of the mosaic. And right over here, if you come a little bit closer, you'll see that underneath the bedrock, or should I say within the bedrock, there's a space carved. There is this room which has a ladder. And if you come even closer over here, you could see a small cat inspecting the ladder. Okay, so look down there and see that small cat. All right, that's our house cat. In any case, there's a second space. There's a door leading to an underground room. There's even a pillar inside that room. And I'll tell you a secret. We can't go down there, but there's another space. There's a third room hiding underneath this one. The floor where the cat is sitting is actually the ceiling for another underground chamber. Inside that chamber, we found lamps, candles dated back to 2,000 years ago. This could be a storage place or a refrigerator, so to speak, where you could, keep things in a very cold temperature. The limestone keeps things very cold. And the people who lived here during the early Islamic period in the structure had no idea that they're living on top of a 2,000-year-old basement. The interesting thing is that we know that 1,300 years ago, when the Muslims were in control of Jerusalem, they were relatively kind to the Jewish community. There was a thriving Jewish community in the city back then. And maybe, I say this with a lot of modesty and hesitance, but maybe this space was used by Jews. And how do we know that? Maybe. Archaeologists don't all agree about this. But right over here, we could see the threshold of the structure. And on the side, there's an indentation, which looks like to some of you a mezuzah. If this is a mezuzah, this space was used by Jews 1,300 years ago during the early Islamic period. And the people living here were clueless that underneath their house, their roots, 2,000-year-old structure is just waiting to be discovered, which we discovered recently. So before we head out of the new digs, I'd like to go back to the Temple Mount and the temple the way it used to look like 2,000 years ago, and notice that the southern part of the Temple Mount, we could see the royal stoa, okay? These are hundreds of columns built in 2 floors in a row. Each column needed 3 people holding hands to surround 1 column. Each column also had capital stones, beautiful capital stones. When the temple was destroyed by Titus, some of these capital stones were knocked down to the marketplace beneath the Western Wall. Later, during the Islamic period, someone is going to take these capital stones, move them a bit, and incorporate them in this structure. And if you look right over here, you could see part of a 2,000-year-old capital stone originated in the Temple Mount and found its way over here, part of this 1,300-year-old complex. So I hope this was enough of a tease to make you come back again. And hopefully, we'll be able to bring here tourists sooner rather than later. Hey, I almost forgot. Take a look over here. You see these squares over here? What you're seeing is a board game. Chutes and ladders from the Roman period. It's very simple. You put down your pieces over here, you could roll the die, and slowly you move ahead until you reach the end. The first one at the end wins. This is a game played 1,900 years ago.